Never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bait and I make plans for 7:45, and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Good evening, CFN. Hope everybody is having a fantastic Easter weekend. It is Monday. K-Dog's in the house. How you doing, K-Dog? Adele, how you doing? Trisha's here. Steve Shaw, yeah, baby. Sarah Dickerson is also here. David Craig. We got Dwayne Bennett from Dynamite Plastics who's with us. How you doing, Dwayne? Terry's in the house. Brad's with us. We've got lots of you here. Jeff Izzard. That's a new name. Good evening, Jeff Izzard. Nice to see you. Eve is with us tonight. Tony's in the house. Rachel Lynn O'Brien, how you doing? Susan Spunga. Peter D'Souza. Nice, great having you guys here on Monday. It is a holiday Monday for some, perhaps not for others. Apologize for being a little bit late tonight, but our guest host, Mark Beehler, got a firsthand look at what it looks like behind the scenes. And I'll tell you, some of our conversations we have before we go on live are almost more entertaining than when we do. So one of these days we might have to do a bit of a behind the scenes take on what it looks like to do one of these CFN lives, because as I said, the conversations get very, very animated, and they're a lot of fun. And for that reason, as I said, I love doing this. I love doing it because of you guys. But Susan, your name reminds me of what's upcoming on Wednesday. So if you guys can remember this, on Wednesday, we're only going to do one post for Walleye Wednesday, and it is a look back. Not all, unfortunately, we couldn't put it all in the video, but it is a look back at some of the giant walleye that have been caught and released by UCFNers. I think it's a message that needs to be hit home. We got to release these fish, and those who did this winter are helping when it comes to the benefit of this spring spawn. Those fish are starting to stage if they haven't already, and they're going to be doing their thing very, very soon if they haven't already. And the fact that some of our fish, and if you were to count up, just estimate in terms of eggs, all of these fish would have represented, it'd be in the millions. So big shout out, thank you to all you CFNers for practicing catch and release. And as I said, we put together a video to commemorate that, and I want to thank everybody who has sent in a video. I apologize if you aren't in it, but as it could only be so long. So some big fish were released, but it's quite the video. So my challenge to you guys is share the out of it. We want to get the message across to everybody the importance of catch and release, especially with those big walleye. And Susan Spunga, I will tell you, you are right at the end. You are the anchor of the video. So stay tuned to that. As I said, happy Easter to everyone. Hopefully everybody had a great Easter weekend. If you're back to work, I apologize. It is what it is. If you're not, and like me, and you got the day off, hope you're enjoying it. And thanks so much for spending it with us here on CFN. And speaking of CFN, what a busy place this has been when it comes to Facebook. Holy crap, the number of notifications I get. It's an active community, and in a positive way, and I really appreciate that. So keep it up, guys. It's a positive group. Hopefully it will remain a positive group with the efforts of all of you, but just amazed at the number of notifications and how busy we are at CFN. Thanks again for all those who have put together a thank you video from the Winter Fish Fest. All of our sponsors really appreciated the efforts that all of you CFNers that received prizes, and congratulations to those who did. But we also thank you so much for doing those videos. They mean the world to our sponsors. So kudos. And speaking with tournaments and the CFN Fish Off, the spring edition is upcoming. We haven't got a date confirmed yet. I don't want to even talk about it because I'm sick to death of this COVID. And I apologize for all those who are suffering with it or who have lost loved ones. But I'll be honest, like we're getting here when it comes to COVID. And unfortunately, our spring tournament cannot be announced in terms of a start date yet until we figure out what's going on. Because unfortunately, with the spring tournament, unlike the Winter Fish Fest, it encourages people to travel, and that's something that right now we can't do. We just can't do that. So Mike and I will be talking about that upcoming. But as it is right now, it's still on. We just don't know when it's going to start, what it's going to look like, and how COVID is going to rear its ugly face in it. 44 jerseys have been sold. Richard Dunlop gave me the update. 44 CFN jerseys have been sold. Thanks, guys. That means a lot. And our CFN inaugural signature series hoodies are coming out. Hopefully it'll be posted in the next couple of weeks, but stay tuned to that. It is our inaugural CFN signature series edition hoodies. They are geared towards fish, so they're really cool. And hopefully we will be doing many other species, but we are, of course, going to start with my beloved walleye. I'm sure that's not a big surprise. A couple birthday announcements, one of which, of course, Mike Riddick had a birthday yesterday. I heard, based on what I've been told, he learned to finally tie his shoes. So, Mike, good on you, buddy. Keep at it. Fantastic news yesterday. It was his birthday, so big shout out to Mike. TJ Ratrowski, his was a couple days back. He put his first worm on his hook all by himself. So TJ, awesome to you, buddy. Hopefully it's nothing but uphill from there. But, putting your worm on your hook for the first time, it's a big step. And you know what, CFN, congratulate you for that. Kylie Shaw, today is her birthday. Kylie no longer needs the car seat to travel with mom and dad. She stepped up. They took the car seat out. Kylie, congratulations. You're a big girl now. And we want to wish you a happy birthday from all of us. Shannon Deely, her birthday is tomorrow and no longer drinks from a bottle. Wait a minute. No, that's not right. Anyway, happy birthday to you, Shannon. Chris Vallot, it was his birthday, I believe, today. Yes, today. And he fished this past weekend for the first time without a bobber. So congratulations to Chris. Happy birthday to you, my friend. And Jasper, who we all know is the owner of Pro J Fishing Tackle, at least if you're in this area, you'll know. It was his birthday last Friday, so a few days back. And from what I'm told, he no longer sucks his thumb. So congratulations to Jasper on that. That's a big accomplishment as well. So to everyone who has celebrated a birthday or has one upcoming, or it may be today, happy birthday from all of us from CFN. Scott Berry, how you doing, my friend? I love you too. Denise Blanchard, Terry, it's great to see all you guys here. I really appreciate this. Failing, yes, nice to see you as well. Erica's in the house, and as I said, we're going to bring in tonight's guest host just before we get to Jim. We're going to say hello to Mark. Everyone say hello to Mark. Mark. Hi. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic, my friend. Now, we got to get to Jim, unfortunately, quickly because he's got to get out of here. So we're going to learn a little bit more about you before the segment, before Lawrence's segment. So in doing so, what we'll do is I love this video, and I know a lot of people also love it as well. Here is the introduction for Jim right here with the Well, I'm with you, Rachel. Nothing gets me going when it comes to wanting to go fishing than that video right there. But a close second are these two gentlemen, Jim and Mark Beehler. Jim, who joins us every Monday, and Mark, who's joining us this Monday. We're going to get to know a little bit more about Mark. But until then, Jim, I know you're in a hurry. You've got a whole lot going on. We're a little upset that you're moonlighting on a Monday with us, Jim, but we'll get over it.
That's what I get the big buck for.
So tell us what's going on right after this show.
I'm going to do a thing with John Anderson on
Cool.
the Muskie Monday that he does. So that should be a hoot. Hey, first off, everybody, we got the new issue of Just Fishing Up, the spring issue. So go check it all out. So and you can't download it anymore. You can download a page. You can't download the whole thing, because what we're working on doing is getting really good at analytics. And as the guys that do all this stuff explain to us, if you download the paper and then you share it to 50 friends, they're not part of the analytics. It has to come directly from the page.
The page.
So this is how you get the
I'm glad you explained that. So that's the link right there. Go to that link in order to download.
You can, and I mean, if you want to go, you don't download it. All you got to do is click and go back to it. It's right there.
Perfect.
It's not like it's a big deal,
Jim, is the paper version still available, or is that no more?
No, it's been gone since the spring.
Right.
Spring issue was a lot, and it was really funny. The other day after we got it all done, we were driving down to Kingston here, and I said to Tammy, I said, could you imagine the kerfuffle I'd be in right now with them having another lockdown and me with the paper just printed?
Yeah, no kidding.
Like,
Absolutely.
I'd have been
everything upside down.
I'd have been looking for the rope and the apple tree out the back.
Well, before you do that, Jim, listen, Mark, and I'm sure Mark, I love this part. I get to sit back and listen to you guys talk back and forth. I'm sure there's a million questions that you would love to ask Jim. Right now, I'm going to put you on the spot. She's your stage. Let her go, bud.
My stage. Oh my goodness. Let's talk panfish.
I'm offended.
Why? you know why I want to. You know what? It's because of the time of year. Everything else is pretty well closed. Sports fishing, anyway. So you're able to, you can target panfish right now. And what are your go-tos for this time of year, spring fishing?
Well, what I've been a lot of my panfish fishing. Hang on, I'll be right. I'm going to show you. I wasn't thinking of it.
Perfect. I wish
you should see that chest, Mark. It's like, and there's like 10 of them. The load.
Wow.
I know.
So the thing that's become my love in the last few years is these kinds of things.
Oh, really?
And you can see how small they are when I put it beside my finger.
Yeah.
They're just teensy little things. It's so much fun. I get a rod. I have an old Zodius, the original Zodius. It's I think it's a 5.6. It's got a light tip on it. It's just beautiful. It just throws those little baits. I put it on a 5-pound braid with a little 6-pound fluorocarbon leader, 6-pound test, and it's an absolute hoot. But you know what? It's like everything else. There's days when they won't touch that.
Yeah.
They won't look at it. They won't follow it. They won't go near it. You throw out a little inch-long tube or some other little micro bait, one of these little, like one of my favorite things that I use a ton, and we use them in the wintertime, also that I use in the summer, are these. Just a little marmuska.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll get a teeny little piece of a little plastic bait and put it on the back. I'll take like one leg off of an inch-long craw or an inch-long shrimp type thing, a scud. Take one leg and hang it on the back, stuff like that. I've always got a whole bunch of crap in my pocket when I'm out there. I just keep trying different things with that. Yeah. And then something I got into in the last couple of years too, I have a few out in the garage rigged here, little inline spinners. And I'm not a spinner guy. Because of where I came from.
Erica uses some spinner type lures, and
Yeah.
she does very well with the crappie.
Yeah, if they're eating the crankbait,
Everyone
they'll
else is
usually
using-
eat the spinner. Yeah.
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 Yeah,
Now,
it works
Jim,
really well. And
with that
some of the
Maruski,
bigger ones too.
are you using a slip float or are you just casting it?
Yes, I will use a slip float at times too. Yep.
Okay,
Yep. I always have a slip float there
right on.
because usually once you find a load of them, the slip float really works well.
You're right
But I
on
think
top.
the whole key is light line. Like you can't take your walleye rod that you had a 3/8 ounce jig on in the fall and with 10-pound fluorocarbon and tie on one of these little baits and think you're crappie fish. It's not going to work. It's going to end up horrid. So
Some of
you
them
gotta
you
have
won't
the
even
right
get.
stuff.
You won't even get the line through the eyelet on some of those jigs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Literally.
If you're using braid, you might. If you're tying braid right to it, but 10-pound line on the eye of this little thing, if it didn't, I don't think. Yeah, the eye on this is so small. I bet you if you got the 10 or 12 pound, you wouldn't get through because the split ring has to sit with the split part in the hole, or it wouldn't fit through the whole thing. It's so small. But you can see how teeny they are. Like there's nothing to them. That's my favorite one right now. I had one that was sort of a silver and pink, and I got bit off by a stupid pike about this long. I saw this little thing.
Wow.
I just saw him just shoot by, and the line just went limp, right? I thought, you bugger.
Wow.
Just cut it right off. It had
Yeah.
a little teeth would be like a razor blade there. But hey, something else when I heard you guys mention at the beginning about releasing big walleyes,
Mhm.
I remember once getting on a little bit of a tangent for a few weeks on a few things about guys keeping walleyes, specifically out of season, and keeping big fish for no reason, for absolutely no reason. Because I don't think that they were eating them. I think they just wanted to brag about it, that type of thing. And I had a guy send me a note, and he said, Big Jim, I think it's really nice that you spoke up and said something like that. But he said, another thing that he said stuck in my mind a long time ago was he said, I used to go to the Bay of Quinte in the fall, and if I caught an 8-pound walleye, I'd keep it. And then it dawned on me, that fish 3 months later is the one that people are fighting over, saying that you shouldn't be fishing for them because they're out of season. Or even if it's in season and they haven't spawned, you should be letting them go. So for the sake of 90 days, maybe we should just be putting these big fish back, like all of them. It's, you don't,
Oh,
who wants
I
to
think-
bring home a 10-pound walleye and eat it?
Unfortunately, I've seen it happen here. I do my best to educate them. I don't I don't disown it. It's not my place because it is their right to keep it if they want to.
Yeah.
But
Oh
I do
yeah. No,
try to
you
educate
kept
them
the
as much
fish.
as
Yeah, it's all part of it, and I know a lot of people want to go back to the native part and the fish out of season and whatever, but that's they're allowed to do that, and that to me makes it no different than you being allowed to keep it in season.
That's right.
It's what you're allowed to do. It's what you're allowed to do. It's what it is. If people don't like the rules, then they need to do something to get the rules changed. And just like you can go bass fish in Lake Ontario in the St. Lawrence right now. All of Zone 20. There's guys. I saw guys in front of Gananoque in bass boats yesterday, down the river.
Yeah.
You never saw that at this time of the year. And they're not going crappie fish or something. These are guys out trying to find smallmouths that are still in deep water, and they've decided that it's okay to do it. And I'm always big on science. So it's what it is.
It's been busy down at our launch there because we're in Zone 20. So this year it's been busy.
Yeah.
You're not seeing any pictures or anything because it's not okay to take pictures of them. It is.
Yeah, the MNR made that very plain. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
But it has been busy here at our launches. Guys are actively going out there. Now, I know they're deep. I'm not sure how deep they are. I haven't gone out. My boat's in the shop, but yeah, it's been interesting. I guess guys are out there enjoying it. This new catch and release. So
It's what they changed
I
it
hope it
for,
goes well.
and if it inspires some commerce, some hotel rooms, see guys buying gas and whatever things, it's maybe ends up being a
Exactly.
win-win.
Yeah,
100%.
it
And
could
Jim,
be. I
as
don't
I
think
said, go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say I don't think it turned out the rules turned out the way they wanted it to, though. I think they wanted to be able to do some sort of tournament fishing during this season, but the way they introduced the rules, that didn't make it possible for them. So
No.
but all the same, they're out there, they're having fun, and hopefully it works out. And the best part I thought with the changes was they extended that smallmouth another couple of weeks.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's June. It's not the third week of June or third weekend of June now. It's the first week of Saturday or July. I think first Saturday in July or something like that. So I see them on the beds during opener, and it's just you feel bad.
Well, I've seen fish on beds in Lake Ontario in the middle of August, like out way offshore, out in the middle of the lake at the main ducks and Timber Island and stuff like that. And if you were to go out and catch those fish and their young get eaten, like Dr. Tufts will tell you, there's a good chance that the young wouldn't have survived anyway because they're just born too late in the year. They can't get big enough to make it through the winter. Yeah. So
something I found, we were discussing actually in our legacy chat that I've managed to stumble across watching some of the fish, at my place breed and spawn and do their thing. How long that male bass will guard the young long after they're hatched. It's actually amazing to see how long they stick around. So as Mark had mentioned, when you throw a bait in, you see the little fry jump through. Obviously, the big guy's right behind.
Not far away.
But it's just amazing how long they'll stick around to guard their young. So they might be on the beds because they haven't spawned, but in some cases they might still be protecting their young too.
Oh yeah. You'll see little clouds.
And they don't all spawn at the same time either.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. But getting back to the big walleye, I could never understand why. It's great to have pictures of people holding big fish. I think it's fantastic. But if we want to send the message back to the community and the masses that it's important to release these, why anybody wasn't promoting that through video and some features and what have you was beyond me. The only time it would ever get spoken about is when people got upset. Like, why would you keep a fish like that? Why would you hold it like that? Why would you do? Well, you know what? Let's get positive and praise people releasing fish. I don't know. So Wednesday we do it all the time, but Wednesday we've got a nice video that we've put together that hopefully will get shared by a lot of people, and we'll get that message out there that it is the right thing to do, and it's a positive message.
Yeah, Scotty, I thought there was an abnormally high amount this year on social media of pictures of people sliding fish back down holes.
I'd have to agree, Jim.
Hey, well, I saw I couldn't believe it. There was, like so many and big fish too. And of course, as soon as you let them go, they can go up about 2 pounds. So it's cool. So it's really good to let them go.
Oh, you're too much.
The 9-pounder becomes 11.
Yeah.
7 becomes 9.
And you really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like I really don't care. I think a big fish to a person is a big fish, but having them release it, and I have to agree with you, Jim. There was, and as I said, hopefully we've managed to highlight as many of them as possible. But you're right. I think more so this year than any other year I've seen.
And a lot of whitefish. I saw a lot of guys putting white, and I know guys love to eat whitefish out of Simcoe. Like they love to do it, and I saw so many whitefish tails this year going south down that hole. It was pretty cool to see. I saw another one where a guy had a picture. He released a pike that it had to be like 47, maybe 48 inches. Absolute, just a just a beast of a fish, just a beast of a fish.
That's a big.
Yeah, and he caught it on a little lure fishing for walleyes, and like he said he thought it was really old because it wasn't that heavy. It wasn't really thick, and he said it only fought for about 2 minutes, and he had it on 8-pound line. He forced it up pretty good, he said, but it popped right out of the hole too. They've got the whole video, and when he pulled it up, it was like it was aimed at the hole. It just pops up, and his buddy grabs it. They take it out, and the guy's pulling the fish out of the hole, and I'm looking and I'm going, when's this going to end? Like, am I on candid camera? Is they done some kind of a trick here? They stretching the fish to make it, and it just kept coming out of the hole, and the two of them absolutely freaked. And the one guy starts saying to him, "We got to get that back in. We got to get it back in." And they took the little jig out of it. It was just a little jig, and put it out. And the guy held it up like this, and he was just mesmerized, eh? And
it is
back down the hole she went, eh? So it's a good chance that fish will get the spawn this year and be doing its thing. Maybe make somebody else happy for a long time.
Amen.
Yep. No doubt about it. And it's really important too, not just with these big game fish like walleyes and muskies and pike and stuff like that. Panfish can be the panfish hierarchy can be upset so easily when you take a few big fish out.
Yeah.
Keep a few big ones, you ruin it forever because, it's when we had Jimmy Lindner on, and then the same thing when I was on with Andy's show with what's his name, the young lad, Jeremy. He said, he talked about you take out a 10-pound fish, it doesn't necessarily get replaced by a 10. It gets replaced with biomass weight.
Yep.
And for a fish to get to be that heavy takes a long time. It's like there isn't a guy on the bottom of the lake with a door that opens up the door and says, like, "Frank, bring me another 8-pounder. Someone just kept one." And they squirt an 8-pounder out into the lake. Like, I mean, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that.
No, and honestly, you're 100% right, Jim. And I know we've talked about it. Will Wegman talks a lot about it when it comes to Lake Simcoe and the big perch and people keeping those big hens, those big fish. We I don't know. And then now all you hear from most anglers that go out on Simcoe is there's nothing but small perch. I wonder why.
I heard a guy clarify today, or maybe Sunday. It was Sunday on the weekend. He was at Simcoe out in the boat, and he caught some fish, and he was holding one, and it's just immensely fat, and obviously full of eggs. And he said, just so everybody knows, this fish is only about 10, 11 inches long. It's just really fat. I'm not keeping a big, a big giant one. I guess, I don't know. I probably myself personally, my choice, I'd be putting them all back. Just, have the fun of catching them.
Absolutely.
I guess, keep a few, but, like we were talking about the limits. Nobody needs to keep 50 perch or 100 perch. That's
absolutely.
I don't know.
No. And
it's,
a lot of times, Eric and I will go out. We're just going to go out and have some fun. We do keep our feeds, but I've never kept 50 perch. Never.
No.
First of all, I don't want to clean them.
Well, I was just going to say I've never caught 50 perch. First off, I wouldn't want to clean 50 perch. So you're bang on there. Yep.
And you can witness other people while you're out there, and they are keeping them. And let's say we go out the next day, those same people are out there, and again, they're going to keep the same amount. Now, I'm pretty sure they're aware of their possession limits, and that also includes what's in their freezer.
Yep.
But they're going to count their household members and do their little stuff, but it's too bad. It's too bad, and they're often targeting them during their most vulnerable time when they're all together, getting ready, staging for spawning, and full of eggs. And they're keeping some of these bigger ones. I've seen guys keeping super small ones too.
Yeah.
They're there fishing for them before the big girls come in. They're keeping all the small ones, and
if it swims, they keep it.
Yeah. Amen. Jim, we are getting close to when you have to leave. So was there some things that you wanted to show us before you go?
No, I'm good, buddy. I'm good.
I thought you had some jigs that you wanted to show us tonight.
Oh, you want me? I can talk about the jigs. Yeah, no, Sure.
Right on, buddy.
We
Go
were talking about this, and that's one of the things I'm going to talk with John and him tonight. Is that when I fished in small rivers for muskies, and I understood current and how it interacted with the bank, with a rock, with a tree, whatever else. And although I had all the standard things, that we used for muskie fishing, like, bucktails that we used to use big suics and all these other stuff more like this, like giant jigs that were more like designed for, like they look like they're bass baits more, but when you look at the size of them, you can see they're really good. Like there's a Rapala shad wrap was also one of my favorite baits. So you can see they're pretty well the same size. And I always used to tell people in the Rideau River, now this is still when the river was murky too, and this would sort of go against it because it's so much clearer now. But I like baits that were the length of my hand. I just always judged it by that. There was something that worked. They had to have the big giant hooks in them. That's why the ones that I've started to make here have those giant hooks in them.
Yeah.
That's an 8-aught hook, and I've got some 10-aughts coming. But jigs catch muskies, and there's all the other stuff that you can use. But man, when it comes to muskie season this year, especially the guys in the Kawarthas, I already got so many guys calling me hearing that I'm making a jig that you can use to rip because it has that eye coming out the front, and the hook is straight like this. It's flat. It's just it's what you need to rip, because if you try ripping a jig like this, it doesn't work quite as well. That's why the banana jigs and a lot of the other jigs, swim jigs and things, have the eye right at the front. So
Right.
there's nowhere for the weed to catch. It just
And
makes it a lot easier.
you've caught a muskie ripping hair?
I got 2 years ago was the last time I fished in the Kawarthas, and I got bit off 5 times.
Wow.
And that's just with a 3/8 ounce bucktail, just like something that's like this, like the stuff that I make all the time.
Were you targeting them?
I got bit off 5 times. So if I'm fishing with a leader and something that's a good size, that weighs an ounce and it's like 8-9 inches long, ripping it through those weeds, I swear to God, it's gonna be like you opened up the door on the bottom of the lake and they said, "Here, let all the muskies out. There's a big rip jig out there."
Wow.
Like yeah.
There's a lot of muskie up there, I hear. I haven't fished it yet.
Yeah.
I guess their numbers are healthy, I hear.
Yeah, it's somewhat, I guess, almost infested. So I know guys go out and they hate fishing the tournaments there because they use a jerk bait. It costs, $25-$30.
Oh, that's painful. Yeah.
Jerk, and you just watch the line flutter out in the breeze. It's gone. So
I had a lot of muskie drama last season with some of my lures fishing walleye. I had to change my tactics because first of all, I don't want to hurt the fish, and secondly, those lures get expensive. Yep. I had one day it was $80. Gone.
Whoa.
Like, oh my God. Like, quit biting.
Overtime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And muskie drama is what I call it. I'm out there for walleye, and they're showing up. They're trying to take my fish as I'm reeling them in, and some pretty amazing things and some massive fish. Oh my God, they're impressive.
See a lot of that in Lake St. Clair. Guys bringing in 2-pound smallmouths in a tournament.
Okay.
And they need one fish to make their limit. They already have a good catch. So one fish is going to make a difference.
Next
the number
thing
of
you know,
times I've heard guys get up on the stage and say, like my limit fish is swimming around in the belly of a muskie out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've heard several guys say that.
Muskie drama.
Yep.
It's true. Jim, you've got 5 minutes before you get on with Muskie Monday, so
cool.
we're gonna let you go early so you can get the makeup and freshen up and what have you. Yeah. But again, dude, can't thank you enough for coming on each Monday as you do.
My pleasure. Good to see you, Mark.
Likewise. Always a pleasure.
Say hi to the bride for me.
Will do.
Take care, Jim. Good luck
Everybody
tonight.
out there, be safe, eh?
Where is Muskie's Monday if people want to tune in and see it later?
Muskie Factory, Ottawa Muskie Factory, I think it's called.
Perfect.
Oh, remember before the show, I told you I got a note from my buddy right after you went to the show, and he says, "Hey, remember I told you it was like 1,900 new cases of COVID in Ottawa?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "It's 198." not 1900.
There you
Oh,
go.
good. All right.
His wife called him and told him, "Oh my God, there's 1987 cases in Ottawa today."
Wow.
No.
So, anyways, yeah, he messaged me and said, because I was thinking, I that's an awful lot of cases.
That's a lot of yeah.
But you look at Vancouver and that area, they've had their biggest numbers since the whole thing started the last few days.
Yeah.
Scary.
It is.
Everybody be safe out there.
Take
You guys
care,
have a
buddy.
great night.
Appreciate it, Jen. Yeah, it's and you got to see firsthand, Mark, what it's like before we go on. As I keep telling people, sometimes the conversations we have before we go live
on the
are more
backstage.
entertaining. Yeah, more entertaining. That's why, you know, and it was funny because
awesome.
who's on us on with us, he's like, Scotty, you got to be on time. I tell people that you're on at 7, you got to be on time, and I like to be on time too, but you can't like speed that up, like and as I said, sometimes you could be more freely on how you feel about a subject than you can be when you're live. So
Right.
I get to see some of the you know the true characters that we have, and we're so lucky to have them. But
They're colorful. I'm feel blessed actually. So
well,
yeah,
listen, as do we.
it's a privilege.
That you're a part of our CFN community, and we want to get to know you a little bit more. So what kind of angler were you before you came to CFN? Have you continued to be that kind of angler, or have you broadened your horizons, taken on different species? But sort of give us a little bit of a timeline from when you started as a young angler to where you are now.
I started off, I want to say I was probably out fishing when I was 3 or 4 years old with my father. He's the one who got me into fishing initially. And that was at our cottage. Both my parents were teachers, so we got to spend summer months up there. And perch, there was suckers. Suckers up there were the biggest fish that you could catch. So with the exception of the lake trout, but that didn't come till much later.
And you've had a fascination for lake trout, as you and I have
did back then. Yes, I really did back then. I spent countless hours. So I don't know, maybe I was 6 years old, and my dad, my parents decided that it was okay for me to go out in the boat by myself, because I would bother my dad day in and day out, every day. So some days he would entertain it, and quite often he enjoyed fishing too. And God bless him, he'd be out there in a 14-foot tinny with 4 boys. There's 4 of us in our family, and how he managed to keep his cool every time we were out there is beyond me. There's a lot of tangled lines, and you know how that goes.
And it's tough. And if there's any advice that I can give any new, parents, whether it be father or mother, if you're taking your kids fishing, the best suggestion I can make is don't bring
your rod.
Don't bring a rod yourself, because you are literally. I have 4 kids myself, and it was get this out of my hair, Dad. Can you put the worm on? I've got a fish. I mean, So you leave your rod at home. It's the best advice I can have. Cliff Moores is asking, where was this that you were talking about?
It's a small lake in Quebec, north of Montreal, called Lac Clay. It's based out of Saint Donat, so Saint Donat, Quebec. That's the neighboring or the nearest town, and it's a private lake. It's beautiful. I call it God's country. You go up there and you can look up at the stars at night, and it's just a blanket of stars. It's unreal, So I was blessed growing up in that environment. And then we had a creek that would feed that lake, and it was littered with brook trout.
Wow.
Which was our prize, basically. We would hike up this brook and hit the pools, as many pools as we could going up that brook, and just have a fun and have so much fun doing that. Just it was always an adventure, right? You're bushwhacking, and you're leaning over. These aren't hot spots like you would have in an area like this where there are trails. we were bushwhacking just to get to our fishing holes and stuff. And it was incredible. Just growing up in that environment, I wouldn't change it for the world. But over the years, I want to say maybe I was 8 or 10 years old. I first put my eyes on a lake trout up on a wall, a mount, and it was about a 30-pound lake trout, and it was a neighbor of ours up there, and so of course I love fishing. I was hooked right from the beginning. Out of all my brothers, I was the one. Like, I was right into it. But I had to ask him, where did you get that? And he says, right here on Lac Clay. I said, what? These fish exist out on our lake? Well, yeah. So I continued to ask questions. I wanted to know how he got it, where he got it, how deep was he, what was he doing. So he was trolling, and I spent probably the next 10 or 12 years chasing one. Come to find out that there really aren't that many in there. And no fish finder, no special stuff, just a 4 horsepower 14-foot tinny, and some pretty makeshift gear. They put together whatever was laying around, and I bought one spinner. It was a Lucky Strike spinner, and I would drag it with a worm, and I finally got one. I think maybe I was 20 years old by the time I got that one. And
so 12 years. 12 years it took you to get. Wow.
A long time. Yeah. Well, I mean, I was fishing for the other stuff there too, but yeah. But I did spend. I spent countless hours chasing that fish, and I always say it was about 30 pounds. It was big, like huge, but I didn't have a scale. There was no pictures to be taken. I was by myself. It took 45 minutes or an hour just to get it in the boat. It was dragging my boat around the lake like it was nothing. So but that really, really enticed me to, get out and do some more fishing. So I want to say for the next 5 years, I started fishing back home here a little more, on and off. And, but I got into a lot of other stuff too. I was always pretty active when I was young. I was into hockey and snowboarding and skateboarding and dirt bikes and four-wheelers, you name it, right? So I was on and off with the fishing, but I would always go back to fishing. Always. Mm-hmm. And then I want to say I was in my 30s when it was brought back to me a little more intensely after going out with Pepe Parisian. He took me out on a bass tournament, and he showed me a few things. I had never really fished for bass up until that point, but he took me out on a tournament on Dog Lake. So that's near Kingston area, I believe. I was just along for the ride for the most part, and filling in the spot, filling in the void. His partner couldn't make it, so he started showing me a few tricks, ways to rig, and I didn't realize that there were so many different ways to rig up. And seeing some of the equipment that he had, and I brought this $45 combo with me, and he says, "Oh, don't worry about it. Just leave that in your truck there, and you can use some of my stuff." So here I am using some of these. I think they were G Loomis rods and Shimano reels. And nothing like going from here to So they felt great, and then the way he was showing me to rig them, Carolina rigs, tube jigs. What else? I think he showed me another way too. Maybe it was drop shot. even though I kind of knew what drop shot was because I fished perch and stuff, but it wasn't the same feel. And we're using plastics. We're not using just worms, right? So he really introduced me to and opened up my eyes to a whole other level of fishing. And yeah, I think it kind of took off from there. On and off for a little bit there, but I really got intense into it, maybe 5 years ago. Really got back into it there 5 years ago or 6 years ago. And
what's really cool is
I love it. There's nothing I don't like about it, other than I get a little teary-eyed whenever I see people keeping some big fish or fish out of season and stuff like that. I do get emotional when it comes to that kind of stuff. And I just try and educate them if I can, if they're willing to listen. If they're not, I'll just leave it be and move on. I'm not a warden by any means, so but I enjoy the sport. I really hope our fishery stays like it is for years to come, and hopefully my kids they get to enjoy it if and when they ever become as interested as I am or my wife.
That's
we'll
awesome.
See. Yeah.
Well, listen, we really appreciate you sharing that. And of course, a lot of people have shared also where they started. Mike started in 81 on the Ganny. Dave Robinson started in 69. Dave, I would have liked to say I would have started that year as well, but unfortunately I was born that year, so I couldn't really understand what fishing was. But people learned at their family cottage. I was not much younger, I would say. I think it was maybe 5 or 6 myself. But again, the reason I got into it, Mark, and I love fishing, was the catching. Well, and that's why I always say, in order for us to get our youth involved in fishing,
100%,
they got to catch fish.
That's right.
You can't explain the experience to a 5-year-old. It's about getting up in the morning, going to getting coffee, hooking the boat up, making sure you got the right baits, and picking up the worms. You can't explain any of that.
Even when they're 12. My son, my son tells me, he's like, "Wow, I'd go out, but I get so bored so quickly." And sometimes I'm trying to take them out for the big ones, and I think back and I'm going, that wasn't the place to take them, But I used to take him out a lot for perch, and he really enjoyed it when he was younger. But I don't know, they're kids, I'm not going to force them to go out there with me by any means, but he entertains it sometimes, and then other times no. Just
now, most people wouldn't know you perhaps as a legacy member or what a legacy member means, but Mark is one of our many legacy members that we manage to get together every month and discuss issues, discuss some of the promos that we're going to be pushing, some upcoming events, perhaps some news that needs to be explained or expressed to the group. And I count on my legacy members a great deal, as I do Mark.
There's ethics, conversations, and
listen, I know what it means to me to be a legacy member of CFN, but I'd be really interested for you to explain what it means to you to be a legacy member to our community.
I'm just what it means to me, it's kind of a loaded question. I feel privileged, first and foremost. When you first approached me and asked me, I was a little beside myself, and like I said, I just felt really privileged and honored just to be asked, by you. Trying to think, was Red involved at the time? Maybe not, eh?
No,
that might have been.
I
don't think so. It might have been after. Yeah, because it all really initially started with Red.
Yeah.
I know he's not showing his face too much there these days, but what it means to me, I just appreciate that my voice is heard by my peers who I've been inspired by, and I try my best to be as involved as I can possibly be.
Yeah.
I know it's hard on the live for me. I'm all thumbs there, so you're not going to see a lot of comments from me. I've tried many times there to write replies and stuff, and by the time I have it all typed out and I can send it, we're on to the next topic. I'm like, jeepers, am I that slow? So I end up deleting it, and I just, okay, I sit back and I enjoy the show. But how I approach it, it's more of a personal, first-hand or hands-on approach with people that I meet. I'm out on the water, and I treat it as I don't want to say a social aspect, but I that's more where I'll promote it.
Yeah,
I promote it really well in person. I have a lot of people that in this area or areas I've visited who have jumped on the bandwagon as a result of that. So maybe it's not as much of my online presence as it is my in-person presence. And there are people that I've talked to that are in Montreal, and sometimes they're on the live. I'll see them, and I smile. I'm like, yeah, I've fished with this guy out on the water, and we've had these great conversations, and they're great anglers. They were very intrigued and very interested, and of course, CFN is not about me. It is about our community. So they stick around because they see how great this community of anglers really is.
Yeah.
Everybody is it's unreal how everybody I find is on the same page when it comes to the camaraderie and that family presence and that, yeah, I'm just blown away.
Well, likewise, Mark, and I'll be
it,
honest with you, I'm honored and privileged, and because of the community and for what guys like yourself and the rest of our legacy members bring to our community. Because this is, as you said, and you said it perfectly, this is not the Mark Beehler show. It's not the Scotty Martin show.
No,
it is a community that it constantly is reminded of that because we have so many fantastic people that are a part of it.
I think a lot of maybe why I'm here, you can answer this better than me, is probably because of the fish off.
Yeah.
So initially, right?
Yeah.
And getting that going, that was the way that's turned out is just unbelievable. I just finished watching the last episode. Unreal where this is going. Like I'm blown away, and I feel so happy or proud that I was a part of getting this going.
I've got to tell you a story. This week,
on there.
Your involvement with it right from the get-go was very much appreciated. But I got to tell you, this is a really cool thing that happened to me when it comes to the fish shop. Is I was standing there and I had my Team CFN T-shirt on Sunday. And I was filling up with gas, and there was a guy I could tell that was looking at me, and I'm not really sure at the time what he was looking at. And then all of a sudden he said, "Are you with that CFN thing?" And I'm like, "Yep." He says, "I'm watching you on TV." And I said, "Well, you're probably not watching me. You're probably watching our team." No. You're the guy. You're the guy. You're the big guy. I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." Yeah, the host. He says, "Yeah." He says, "You guys catch a lot of fish." So you're 100% right when it comes to the number of species that were caught the first year to what were caught this year.
I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm just glad I'm not competing in it right now.
Right. Amen.
We couldn't do it. We couldn't travel across the country, but that's just because of our personal situation. We have 5 kids there that we take care of, so they wouldn't appreciate us being gone for weeks at a time. Big,
100%.
you know,
Well, Mark,
six weeks was a long time. It was a great experience. It was extremely difficult to do. It's not an easy thing to do. But no, that was great. And I just want to point out too that the part that, you know, flatters me the most about you having me on as a legacy member is that I'm an average guy. I'm not a pro. You know, I don't make a living doing this. I have my, I'll just say 9 to 5, even though my hours are pretty wonky. You know, I have my job that I go to day in and day out, and that's where I make my living. So fishing is beyond that. So I'm an average person, just like everyone else out there in our community. And but I do enjoy, you know, showing my catches, and now you have me showing people how I'm catching. I hope people enjoy that. I don't know how much people are taking from that. I hope they enjoy it. I hope I get better at it. I'm not the greatest behind the camera. Maybe I'll get less shy with that, but or better at editing.
Yeah, we're all just average people. But no, absolutely. Yeah. It was something that I came to during the retreat, that I think it's time that, you know, and everybody appreciates your fish picks, but I think it's time to take it to the next level and show us how you're catching those fish. And you've jumped in, and we really appreciate you taking the time to put those together.
And I do want to point out too that some of my techniques, they're not necessarily my own techniques. Some of them are, and some of them, you know, I have friends that show me how they catch fish, and you know, if it works, I'm on board.
Right on.
So yeah, it's a community effort, you know, catching fish. But you know, I just keep our fishery going. You know, absolutely. It's not it's keep it sustainable. Don't keep all your fish that you're catching, please.
Amen, brother. And on that note, we're gonna bring in Lawrence, because he echoes your same sentiment.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love Lawrence.
I should say, but as I said, no one's voice is louder when it comes to that than Lawrence's right now, and I'm thrilled to have him on. But he wanted us to watch a video first, and you're gonna love the ending. I think the ending's hilarious. Have a look.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is a perfect example why the locals get really angry with the commercial fishing. When they book a trip with me, book a year in advance, and that whole year they're very excited and can't wait. And you get out here and you just book your trip on the day after a commercial opening.
And the seiners have swept it clean.
Yeah, now you've got a $600 boat ride. Because if there's 100 boats right here and they decide to do a set, they'll just start running their net around you, and it's up to you to get out of the way.
Really? And if you don't get out of the way?
You're sold for $8 a pound.
I love that. That is brilliant. I don't know who that gentleman is. I know you're going to tell us, Lawrence, but I love that. If you don't get out of the way of the commercial fisherman, you get caught in the nets, you're sold for $8 a pound. That's hilarious.
I know. Like, that was not scripted, right? That was not scripted. That was just
classic. I laughed.
That's awesome.
I actually laughed out loud when I was watching that today. Downloaded it, and because I couldn't understand, you'd put $8 a pound, and I'm not really, where is this going? And then I see the commercial. I'm like, okay, right on. And then I hear the ending, and if I had a drink in my mouth, I would have spit it out. I thought that was brilliant.
Well, because I mean, like, who has the right? The 100 guides, you know, with their clients out there on the Port Alberni Sound, trolling for salmon, or the seiner that drives over from Vancouver City. And then runs its seine, so they basically feed the net out, and then they do a big circle, and then they come back and close the circle, and then they start drawing it in. And when they do this, they're running down one shore, then they cut across to the other shore, and then run back along the other shore, and then cross over. So they've literally just sectioned off an entire chunk of the sound or the river there. and you got to get out of the way. You got to get out of the way. The 100 boats have to get out of the way. It's Canadian politeness at its finest.
Wow.
Uh,
I can't imagine, but especially this time, when we're dealing with COVID, and these charter captains are hoping for the ability to get clients out in the water to enjoy some fishing. And right now, on our BC coast, with COVID starting to escalate like it is, it may not happen. But these commercial boats are still going out and catching fish, correct?
Yeah, they are. The commercial fishery hasn't slowed down on the West Coast, and they're all owned by one guy, the same guy that owns all the grocery stores and a bunch of other businesses. He's just a very wealthy individual, and he's just collected up. He's just collected up everything. He bought all the big commercial fishing boats. Everyone that's on those commercial fishing boats, they work on the boats. There's no ownership there. There's none of this sort of individual licensing. That's something the government is changing now. They're saying that if you have a license, you cannot sell your license to a company, and then the company just collects up all the licenses and all the quotes that go along with that license, and then they buy up a bunch of big boats, and then they just sort of fill those quotes, right? So what it does is it takes away the whole idea of a fishery that's supposed to sustain these communities with jobs, with activity. So they're now saying that that's not going to be possible anymore. You bought a license, you can pass that license on to your children. You can sell it to another individual, but if if that license is going to be used, the owner of that license better be on the boat.
Are you aware of the documentary? Oh boy, what's it called? Seaspiracy.
No, I haven't. I haven't watched that one.
That?
No, I haven't watched that. Yeah. No.
That came to light with me just recently, and it's based on the fishing community worldwide, and how basically there is no such thing as a sustainable fishery when it comes to the way they are fishing our waters, our oceans.
Yeah, I would say that's probably true in a large part of the world. Large part of the world. In the United States, not so much. Like the Americans have a pretty science-based commercial fishing industry going on along their 200-mile exclusion zone around the United States, and for the most part, their commercial fisheries are sustainable. They've got a few that they're rebuilding. If it's not sustainable, they have to implement a plan to rebuild the fish stock in question. And they have to, and that means no fishing, and they have to bring it back. And they're pretty emphatic about it. They take more fish off that list. I think there's less than 30 fish left on that list of commercial fish of interest that are at risk or unsustainable. And they're removing 1 or 2 or 3 species every year, and they're very seldom adding a new one to the list. Canada just passed that law in 2019 that said if there's a commercial species, a species of fish of commercial interest that's not doing well, they have to build a recovery plan. Now that just started in 2009. In the United States, that started 20 years ago. So we're catching up. We've got about 30% of our fish stocks that are now being well managed, according to Oceana Canada and some other watchdog organizations. Others haven't been assessed or haven't been considered problematic. And then there's some that are problematic and they're starting to deal with, like they've just implemented a plan for cod. And it's, there's people that aren't happy about it on the East Coast again, but they've got to do something to bring that cod fishery back. And that takes a plan. So we're getting there. I think North America, Canada, the United States, we're really, leading the charge in how this should be done. Like I said, with artisanal fishers, these people that own the boat, own the license, go out, catch the fish, bring it back, sell it to the people, the buyers themselves. Local fisheries where people actually catch and sell the fish directly to the restaurants and, skip out the middle people. That's catching on now. There's a lot going on, but I think this documentary, the main point of this documentary in that story there is that you had these 3 groups. You had the indigenous fishers and their right to make a moderate livelihood. You had the guides and their right to make moderate livelihood. And then you had this commercial fishing boat. So they would now, in a Port Alberni, they have a table where they sit down together and they decide, okay, did enough of this type of salmon make it through to the spawning grounds? And they count them at the fish ladder. And once they feel there's enough there, the next time a big pulse or a big school of salmon come into the inlet, they say, okay, we've got 600,000 fish down here. We've already got 400,000 fish that have made it up into the spawning waters. We don't need more up there. It'll just overdo it. So let's, bring in the commercial boat. It'll come in and they'll scoop out 400,000 in a day, in one set, in one afternoon. But, that means that whole section of the river is barren. And you got to drive a long way to find the fish again, or wait 3 or 4 days for the fish to stack up again. But, when you're hiring a guide, you got 1 day. You hired the guide for a day. And then the next, for the rest of the season, that guide's booked out. So you just, like you said, you just booked yourself a $600 boat trip. And are the guides supposed to say, so sorry, I'm not going to guide for the next 3 days? No, they'll take you out and they'll try to find fish like we did. Mm-hmm. But it's not going to be, like the usual where they go out at 6 a.m. and they're back at 9 with their limit.
And I honestly believe that everybody has a right to make a living. This isn't a hate on for commercial fishing by any means, but yet understanding and seeing it from this perspective brings to light, the hardships that our guide captains are feeling out in the BC coast. And that's aside from COVID, but the fact that you have these trips booked sometimes years in advance, and you count on that day being, good weather, and then, possibly good fishing. And unfortunately, these commercial boats go out and, as you say, just rip the area clean. It's unfortunate. And as I said,
that's really what this documentary is about. It's really based on the commercial fisheries, and Canada and the US weren't really mentioned too much in there. It was maybe the coast of Africa, England, like more, I think, that part of the world, especially Asia, Thailand, China. So
well, there's not a lot of places left in the ocean where there's fish. There's not a lot of places left, and they just saw 250 Chinese commercial fishing boats fishing outside the limits of the Galapagos Islands. Where Charles Darwin went with the Beagle, right in the middle of the Pacific there, and the Chinese showed up with their 250 big commercial fishing boats and their offloaders and their processors, and they stayed outside the limit. But they just circled the group of islands there and just fished it to pieces, and they move on. So there's some unsustainable practices going on for sure. But another one I wanted to talk to you guys.
Unsustainable.
Yeah, that's for sure. This other story I wanted to tell you guys about, and I just put this out on Bluefish Radio today, Scotty and Mark. It's an interview I did with a scientist, an engineer on the West Coast, and our friend Dave Brown, the founder of the Public Fisheries Alliance. Now, Dave Brown has been promoting the idea of recreational anglers getting out on the West Coast to fish for hatchery salmon. And they're hatchery salmon because they have the little fin there just behind the gill snipped off, not the pectoral fin, but the other one. Mm-hmm. And then that came from a hatchery, and you should be able to keep that. And if it doesn't have that little marker that it's a hatchery fish, then you have to put it back. And DFO is looking into this and working with them on this. And DFO has actually just bought a year ago, just before COVID, a mobile tagging machinery that can go from hatchery to hatchery and tag these fish by snipping off these little fins before they're released. Because right now we're only tagging 10% of the hatchery fish that are being released on the Pacific coast. So that means, the other 9 out of 10, they may or may not be. You have no idea, but you let them go anyways. So you have this tagging thing. And then you have this scientist, this engineer. This is really cool. He's developed a mobile weir. So this is a native practice. It goes way back, that you would put in a whole bunch of posts in the river, and then you put a sort of a fence or netting between the posts, and you would sort of guide the fish as they come up the river into a sort of a fish trap, and then into a little holding area in the river. And then you could dip in with nets, and you could pick out the ones you wanted to keep and just release the rest. And then they would just swim up the river, continue swimming along. And the government of Canada in 1910 told First Nations anglers, fishers, that they're not allowed to use weirs anymore. They had to take them out, and they gave them all gill nets. Now, gill nets are indiscriminate, right? Anything that swims into a gill net is more or less going to be dead.
Yeah.
So this guy, he's developed a way using pontoon boats and the technology to put up temporary weirs. And then the fish swim into these nets. You examine them, and you keep the ones you want, and you let the other ones go. And you can also check their tags. You can also determine how many are going through by counting them with sonar. And he's working with some First Nations communities to test out this technology. And the First Nations communities, they're interested as well, because they want to keep the tagged fish as well and let the wild fish go. Let the wild ones go, keep the tagged ones, harvest the tagged ones. So there's a whole group of First Nations communities, these engineering technologies, the Public Fisheries Alliance and the hatcheries, all sort of getting together and saying, look, let's find a more sustainable way of catching fish, and not using gill nets, or not using beach seines, where, a beach seine is so they just walk the net out into the river, and then they do a big circle, and then they pull it into the shore. And again, crushing anything in that net and more or less killing at least half what's in there for sure right away. So it's not sustainable if you catch other things in there. But anyways, the podcast is out. It describes the whole thing, the pros and cons, where they're going to go with this, how it works. Just amazing Canadian innovation. We should be so proud of guys like this that are they're not giving up. They're not giving up. They're saying, hey, we got to figure this out, and they're figuring it out, and the government's following along, and it's absolutely amazing.
Wow.
You touched on it a bit. You would have less bycatch doing it ways like that.
Oh yeah, almost zero,
yeah.
Because the fish are never touched, right? They're not taken out of the water. If you don't want the fish, you don't even take it out of the water. It just swims right through to the gate and leaves.
That's amazing.
Interesting. Yeah. I like the idea. And again, it's an interesting idea about keeping hatchery reared fish as opposed to the natural fish. And Cliff's on here. Cliff Morris is a captain out on the BC coast. And I'd be interested to hear his take on whether something like that would work. If, obviously it'd be different for someone who's running a charter who's hoping that, they're going to catch fish. But the fact that their clients are now going to have to gear their keep and their take-home fish to ones that are hatchery raised. I wonder, would that create a problem for the guides and our charter captains? I'd be interested to hear what Cliff has to say, because I think it might.
Yeah, the guides are pushing for this in southern British Columbia, where they're around the Fraser River runs, right? All the runs going into the Fraser, a lot of them are at risk at low levels, and they don't like to see the gill nets out there. For sure, that's a problem, and they want to still go fishing, though. They still want to go fishing, and the problem is, how do you go fishing without catching the wild run fish that we need to get up into the spawning beds? And this is one way to keep the lights on, right? It allows these guides in these areas where there's a lot of at-risk fish populations to continue to operate, instead of just having to put their boats on a trailer for the season. And that's the alternative.
Well, it's a good point. And yeah, absolutely not the right alternative for anyone. Your Feel the Bite segment, you wanted to talk about rods.
I do. Yeah. I think, we're all into these more sensitive fishing rods, extra fast fishing rods, which are a very strong rod and then a sensitive tip. And we've moved away from fiberglass fishing rods, which are known for being very flexible. So when is a good time to have a flexible fishing rod, right? Yeah, I mean, we learn to dislike these, but there are times to have a flexible fishing rod. Now, a flexible fishing rod is like fishing with a great big spring. You're not going to feel a whole lot because it's all absorbed through that spring-like action of the fishing rod, the very soft, bendable, what they call a parabolic bend where the rod almost starts to bend at the handle and then just makes almost like a perfect arc from the handle to the tip, a perfect semicircle. Whereas a fast fishing rod would go straight for about 2/3 and then bend the last third. Extra fast would go almost 4/5 of the way, would go straight and then bend the last fifth. That's where the bending happens. But there's times where you want that flexible rod, and that's when you're dealing with leapers. A lot of it has to do with leaping. And so why is a flexible fishing rod going to help you catch fish that are leapers? It's because if you think about it, everyone swims and everyone has experience swimming. When you move your arm through the water, there's resistance, right? So you think, wow, I can, it's slow. I can't punch. I can't pull. Everything's sluggish. Everything feels sluggish. To a fish, that's normal. That's normal. That's what they feel all their life. So when they leap out of the water, all of a sudden they have superpowers. Their reactions in the water may seem fast. Above water, it's 10 times faster. So what does it mean for your hook, for your fishing line? If you have a tight, unforgiving connection between your rod and that fish, and when I mean unforgiving, I mean no bounce in the rod, that fish is going to whip its body around, whip its head around, and jerk that hook right out of its face, break your line, snap your line with that really vigorous, super fast activity. So this is anytime you're fishing fish that are leapers, jumpers. And I'm talking, the people that fish the steelhead, look at their fishing rods, 10, 12 foot, very lanky, bouncy poles. Fly anglers, fishing trout, a lot of trout and salmon are leapers. So they're having very bendy fishing rods. And even the trollers, it's somewhat different. They're using rods that are more forgiving. So when the bite happens, the rod has a chance to bounce back and pick up that line when it unclips off the down rigger. The rod sort of automatically retightens the line that picks up that slack. And you're dealing with amateur anglers quite often on guide boats, on salmon trolling boats, people that really don't have a lot of experience on keeping the rod tip up and how to fight a fish. So just give them a very bendy rod and there's less chance that they'll lose the fish out of just inexperience. So there's the inexperienced angle for sure. Very young children having a bouncy rod can be helpful for them as well. But when you're keeping these rods in your inventory and you're thinking about, boy, what am I going to use here? I'm going to go fish a frog or a jerkbait on the surface, and you're going to get that bite. That fish is going to jump. You want to have that rod that's going to be a little more forgiving, and so there's my my tip on the fishing rods and the leapers.
Now, Matt asked a great question, one that comes to mind right away. Are glass rods heavier?
Glass rods are heavier because there's more material than the graphite rod. If you think about a canoe, when we started making graphite canoes, they were, 20, 30, 40% lighter than the fiberglass canoes. They're harder to fix. I try to patch a graphite canoe, not easy, but it's definitely lighter and stronger. But so the fiberglass it's more forgiving. It can take more impact. It can take more punishment, but they are heavier.
Good. That's awesome. Mark, do you have any questions before we move on to Jay?
Oh, he somewhat answered our my question, and it was more or less it was about how Canada is treating our ocean fisheries and the commercial end of things compared to the rest of the world. Because I just know that you would have better answers. You would have the resources to be able to.
There's so much criticism. There's so much criticism of that, Mark. And justly deserved criticism for the way we've been fishing commercially. But I think it's not about criminality or unethical behavior. I think it's just mostly uninformed and just a lack of awareness that we were capable of doing it, right? Of wiping out fish. This is a relatively new power we've evolved. It's not something we've had for long.
That's right.
No, absolutely.
But look at the damage we've done in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Worldwide. I'm more speaking worldwide. This actually has come to my attention just recently, and I was wondering if you think that there is a lot going on behind the scenes to make more people aware of what is going on. Like, I'm seeing more and more documentaries now, and they're really focusing on some of the destruction that we've caused over the years. There was another one done by Patagonia about the dams and how they've affected the salmon runs. That was an interesting one to watch. But can we expect to see maybe more of this? And are we going to be more aggressive towards? I'm going to say battling this, because it seems to be a battle. Because you did touch on it. You said that, criminal activity, and of course, lack of education. Like, are we going to get anywhere with this, do you think? On your just what do you think?
I think what's helped us as well is that we had a huge industry evolve quite quickly called aquaculture. And aquaculture said, hey, we might be losing fish commercially and wild fish, but we can make it up here by farming fish. And they made it, they sort of acknowledged the industry, the industry to acknowledge that we lost on the commercial fishing for wild fish. And that's too bad, it's sad. But it sort of acknowledged that, right? By then saying that this is the alternative. This is the rescue. This is the silver lining to the dark cloud was aquaculture. And that's how they sold it to us. There's more and more people in the world, more mouths to feed, less fish in the ocean to feed them with. They say 90% of the large fish in the ocean, the tunas, the marlins, the swordfish, the sailfish, those large fish, 90% of those fish are gone. So, but that doesn't mean the other fish stocks are disappearing. I mean, we should be eating smaller fish and we need to be just sustainable about it. And science can guide us on that. We just have to have politicians that are willing to listen to the scientists. And as we can see from the experience here with COVID-19, there's always this tension, right, between politicians who think they know what's right and what the scientists are saying what's right. So there's it's always that sort of tension between politics and science.
Absolutely, and Cliff says it best. Science is what we need to listen to right now, because media has spread so much misinformation, and absolutely sometimes you can spin a story however you want it to be spun, so that your viewers and your listeners do so and make their own judgments based on your opinions. But yeah, absolutely, Cliff. I couldn't agree more. Science is what we need to be putting our heads around. And on that note, I know you and I talked about mercury and how it's affecting Lake Superior. And I came across, it's actually Richard Dunlop who sent me this article, and I sent you a link.
Yeah, I read it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the lead author, Sarah Jansen, she goes on to say that obviously it's been historic pollution that's gone on in the St. Louis River and a few other rivers that feed into Superior that have led to this increased. And in some cases, like, it's just incredible the levels of mercury that are being found in walleye. And as I said, there's so much that goes on. I will make sure to share this so people can have a chance to look at it. But it's very, very concerning to me that, fish like walleye in particular, because that's what the study's on. If you catch them in an area that they have been feeding in that contaminated section of certain river mouths, the amount of mercury, or the possibility of that fish having mercury, more than doubles, and it's off the charts. Some of the levels of mercury that are being found in these fish. So, just a little bit of FYI to your segment last week.
definitely, it's a important article, and I think the fact that there's more and more states, U.S. states that are coming clean with this, right, and they are really leaving Ontario behind on a lot of these calls in terms of advisories, consumption advisories. And here's another one, that where they're just saying, hey, we're not going to take a chance. We don't want our citizens to be eating and eating toxic fish and getting sick from it. So we're going to take a strong stance and get this information out there. We need to do some catching up on that front, my friend. We really do. We need to get our ducks lined up and share this science and make better use of it. Because when you have scientists from different sides or politicians from different sides of the border talking about the same fish and their advice isn't lining up, that's disturbing.
And the other part that's disturbing too is it's been historical pollution. So we're not talking about stuff that was done last year or a year before that. This has been inundated by years of pollution. And that's scary too.
Have you heard any? Is there any good outcome to dredging?
Sometimes they dredge, sometimes they cover it up. Sometimes they put cement over it, just the lower big slabs in, and because the dredging, if it's a river and you dredge it, it can all just flow into a lake, and then you've just introduced a great big cloud of mercury into the lake, and it's more problems that way. If you find it along a shore, you can dredge it out and sort of, because it's not going to flow away as you're dredging. You can do it more, you don't have the current to deal with. But in rivers, I think they're using they're just covering, and some people say that's a problem. But science is looking into this, and we are addressing and identifying and addressing these areas of concern. But for sure, there's going to be more like this historic one here that are going to be discovered, and it's the fish that are going to lead us to them, because they're the ones that are carrying the scars of that.
Yeah, and speaking about dredging, Mark, they did an EA study. I think it was back in the 90s. They could have done one recently as well about Hamilton Harbor, because there was a possible idea of cleaning up the bay by doing exactly that. And I don't know how many feet of sediment it is that they'd have to remove, but let's say it's 3 or 4 feet. The amount of particulate that would be now stirred up and fed into Lake Ontario, there's concerns that it would completely kill all fish, and that is just unbelievable to think that that kind of catastrophe could happen.
How bad it is there?
It's pretty bad. Absolutely. Lawrence, as always, my friend, thanks so much for joining us and spreading some more information, and we look forward to seeing you again next Monday with yet another topic.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Right on. You take care, buddy.
That was a pleasure.
Thanks, Mark.
Oh, sorry, I cut him off. But before we bring in our buddy Jay, let us have a word from his sponsor. And I'm just trying to find it. I'm a little bit behind. There it is. Here we go.
Want to know the difference between power bait and other soft plastics? Ask the fish. Berkeley scientists have thousands of flavors tested on thousands of fish. Natural, man-made. Every bait that's ever hit the water. No matter the shape, size, or color, power bait is the only one that is scientifically proven. Fish bite and will not let go.
Mark, I don't know where Jay, I hope I didn't click him off by chance, but Jay, I don't know where Jay went.
Wow, Jay.
Yeah, Jason got a delay. Oh, back at 5. He's IT issues.
IT issues. Oh, no.
IT issues. So let's see if there's any questions or comments in any of the threads here to see if people want to ask
me.
Yeah, I was going to ask if there are any stuff.
I think we're far enough in here. Maybe I can pose a question there in a little contest.
Great idea. You know what? Absolutely, that'd be fantastic, Mark. Shoot.
Okay, just give me a second here. I'm going to put these earbuds back in. I got to
Okay,
switch back and forth.
While you're doing that, what I'll do, and I'm glad you brought this up, I'm going to share the screen, and
There
we
we
are
go.
going to do a giveaway from last Thursday when we had our good buddy Cameron Tate on, and everybody that answered the question correctly. Hopefully you guys can see that. Yep, there it is. That's the name wheel. Those are all the individuals who guessed the right year. It was 1988 was the answer. Those are all of the correct answers. So we are going to spin the wheel. What do you think, Mark? Do we spin it till the last one standing?
Sure. Yeah.
Last one standing. So let's spin the wheel. There we go.
That's always the most interesting way to do it.
Absolutely. All right. So we'll shuffle the names. Here we go. First spin. And I know exactly what we're going to have to do because we're going to have to change that so it's not as long. Bill Landry is, it looks like, is our first one to be eliminated. Sorry, Bill.
Sorry, Bill.
Yeah. Remove. And let's move on. So we have Richard, Sam, Lloyd, Peter, Tony, and Bill Molnar still left. And again, this was a great segment that Cameron provided us on the choices of knives as well as the proper ways to sharpen. Sorry, Lloyd, unfortunately, you're not a part of it, so we're going to keep spinning. We still have Richard, Sam, Peter, Tony, and Bill Molnar that are with us. Let's see who is the next one to be eliminated. Is it going to be Peter? Is it going to stick with Peter? Is it going to be Tony? Where's that going to land? Holy crap. Where is that going? Oh,
Peter. No, it's not Tony.
Wow. Holy Hannah. We got 4 left on the wheel. Richard, Sam, Peter, and Bill. Let's see who's next to be eliminated. And this is for the Scotty pack of outdoor flavor spices. Peter, look at buddy. I don't know how you're dodging this, dude. How are you dodging that?
He's dodging another one.
Wow, he dodges another one. Bill Molnar, unfortunately, is removed. And we have 3 left. Richard, Sam, and Peter. I like Peter's chances of winning myself. He's dodged 2 bullets so far. Can he make it 3?
Yeah, I think they're setting him up. It's getting set up for Peter.
This is getting set up for Peter is right. Yeah. This is incredible. So again, Scotty Pack is on the line. 6 flavors from Outdoor Flavors.
Sam.
We have Richard and Peter that are left. Let's see who's going to be. So the person who's chosen loses. It's the last man standing. And here we go. Is Peter going to dodge another one? Is Peter going to dodge it? I don't know. I don't think so. Unfortunately not, Peter. It looked like you were going to be the one.
Yeah. I would have put money on it, but I would have lost too.
Absolutely. Well, he came down to the last beat. Almost, buddy. Richard Dunlop is our winner. Congratulations.
Wow, congrats.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's awesome.
Richard.
Good show.
Well deserved too.
Back in the house. Jay's back in the house. Should we play the commercial again? No, I don't think so. Here we go. Jay's here.
Hey.
Jay, IT problems?
Yeah, my internet feed was so slow today. I decided the computer. I had to reboot it. I'm like, I can't be talking. You guys, when I was watching you guys, you get the dial spinning, Scotty, and I'm like, this ain't gonna work. So I'm like, but if you try to reboot a computer, that's never.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. No. That's good.
That's all.
Oh, he froze on me.
Oh, he's frozen.
There
Yeah,
he
he's
is.
frozen.
Speaking of which,
Yeah.
Holy crap! I don't know what's going on tonight. I don't know what's going on tonight at all. Bad.
It's all good, dude. So with the certain temperatures that we are experiencing, the limited rain that we are receiving, I know you've been out sucker fishing. I'm sure you're going to be doing some carp fishing very soon. Have you managed to get out and target some steelhead?
No, I haven't. We've actually been doing a little bit of sucker fishing, a little bit of cat fishing. these are starting to come out too. I don't know what to do. I'm really torn. This is actually can be a really fun time of year. And where do we start? So we have a $20 entry, Trevor and I, to a local catfish online derby that I will be participating, but if it gets up to 20 this week, it's like the crap you're going to be in the local canals. So I don't want to miss that. So I don't know what to do.
Wow.
So
a tough problem.
I'm not complaining.
I was going to say this is a tough problem to have, and where Jay lives down in Delhi, you do have many species that are available to you a lot sooner than most anglers. But no, absolutely. Do you have the same problem out your way, Mark?
With what I want to target at this time of year?
Yeah.
Walleye is so close to my heart. I'm just waiting for walleye. But yes, yeah. I'm waiting for perch to come into certain areas, crappie to come into certain areas, and I'd say those are two probably pretty high on my list. Yeah. And then to fill it in between, there's maybe a chance to get out and do some carp fishing. Carp are always a blast. They just pull. Oh, they're unreal. Very underrated. If you ever get a chance to hook into some carp, especially some big ones, they're a lot of fun to have on the line and reel in.
Now, Jay, do you eat catfish, or do you normally throw them back?
I normally throw them back, but I have a lot of friends that eat them, and a lot of those friends are down in the U.S. They love eating catfish. In fact, farm catfish in the U.S. is big business. Big business.
Yeah, it is.
So
100%.
It's and it's good. Like I've eaten catfish when I go down south. I love eating seafood, and I guess Stephanie's probably no. Actually, while I rebooted the computer, Alicia, I shut off all the kids while they're going to be screaming at me for this. So we'll see if this works. But no, anyways, I go down south quite a bit, and I love eating catfish at any kind of seafood restaurant because I love seafood. So if I can find it, I'll eat it. It's great, but I don't prepare it myself, and I should. But a lot of the ones in the U.S. that the guys are farming, they're a couple of pounds. Like if you go, for example, if you guys go to the store and buy, I don't know, a trout or a walleye fillet or perch fillets, they're all pretty modestly sized fillets, right? When you're catching 5, 6, 7, 8, 10-pound fish, I want to eat those. Like, I think maybe in my life I've eaten one big walleye in my life, and it was because it was on Quinny and it wouldn't go back catching it. It had some barrel trauma issues, and it was like a 10-pound class fish. I'll admit it. I had to do the right thing, right? But I would not keep a fish that big normally ever. And so for catfish, you want to catch, I think, the small 2 and 3 pound channel, or smaller, even a 1 or 2 pound channel cat. But maybe this year I'll try it. I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen in 2021, fellas? Who knows?
This is the thing, Jay, and I will be reaching out to you shortly because, of course, Mike and I have to make a decision when it comes to the CFN spring fish off, and with COVID numbers going the wrong way, we're back at this same decision again. Now, the Winter Fish Fest, we were able to come up with an idea that doesn't encourage travel, but unfortunately, our spring tournament does because it's species driven, and I don't know how that's going to look. But when it comes to travel right now, there are areas that are in gray, but not necessarily I would consider a lockdown per se. And again, I don't know. I don't even know. I can't even have an opinion on it because I don't even fully understand what rules we're currently under right now.
Like, I think to think outside the box a bit, and this has happened with some of the bass events and things in Ontario, and You know, we try and move things back as far as we can right now. Like stuff into the fall. Like you're talking about vaccinations happening in the summertime, right? So if we, unless there's obligations to companies or sponsors, why not just have it in, you know, in September instead of having it in May? I know that seems strange for some, and you know what, at the end of the day, you know, and Jim will back me up on this. You don't have to catch the biggest fish in the lake in an event. You got to catch the biggest fish that day. You got to catch the best fish of that week. So everyone who's in that event is on the same page. No one really has an advantage. So it doesn't matter when you have it. And I think because of this pandemic, I'm really leaning towards some of the events that we do.
Oh, right where he gets to the good parts. He always cuts out.
I know.
Oh, I feel for Jake.
Okay, so it's happening on your end too then. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We're okay. It's
right now.
Yeah, you're okay.
right. But did you guys hear me? Like, I think if Scotty, I don't know about the trade-offs, but to move it back towards September maybe or even August, I don't know.
The unfortunate part about it, of course, is it is a qualifying tournament that qualifies our winners to move on to the TV production. So in terms of the shoot schedule and obligations to sponsors, it's not as easy as putting it off to the fall. But again, we're a month away at least before the announcement of the start. Looks like we're going to be in what we consider a lockdown here in Ontario, and I'm hoping other provinces aren't going to be going to that. But BC looks like the numbers are getting out of control there, so it's quite possible that we might see more provinces in a lockdown situation very shortly.
Yeah, and maybe you just make it ready to go when you can. You know, you have it on the shelf ready to go, and you put a cutoff date on it. I've told everyone who's doing any kind of event this year, you got to put a cutoff date on it, and at some point you have to make a decision. Ontario Bass Nation is trying July. Our cutoff is May 1st. July on May 1st, we have to postpone it because people are traveling and there's hotels to consider and stuff. And this is before this lockdown. That cutoff date was decided weeks ago, and these are all tough decisions. It impacts clubs, sponsors, chambers of commerce, like everything. So it's tough.
I think some tournaments, maybe the smaller ones, I think they're adapting and they're not really having anything in a group scenario anymore. They're just they'll show up at the dock. Here are my fish. They get weighed. They're handed back. Off you go. And then later on, maybe online, you figure out who won. You know, there's no get-togethers by any means. And
I think that's a good point. Like a lot of the events, the weigh-in itself is you have 2 or 3 people because you got to keep your gathering size down, right? So
that's right.
You have 2 or 3 people at the dock that are basically they're the gathering size. The challenge is events where you're encouraging travel. That's my beef with it. When you're saying, yep, you know what, we're going to have a tournament in Petawawa, and we're going to bring 300 people to the city of Petawawa and Pembroke. Like that shouldn't be happening. Like, but maybe by July it can. But maybe
there.
Right. So these are tough decisions.
Yeah, they are absolutely.
It's tough to make the right decision, and but I know firsthand that there are a lot of people out there that are I don't know, their attitudes have changed. And you can really tell where we are. We can really tell, and by that I mean we see New York plates and we see Quebec plates, and they're traveling here through Ontario. You know, they stand out, so you can really you can see it, right? People are just not taking it as seriously as they were.
And the sad thing is, listen, we can go over the politics of what's going on and how we've mismanaged it, how it wasn't, properly rolled out in terms of vaccines and what have you. We can go on and on and on about it. Everybody has their opinion, warranted or not. Everybody feels the same way, and I'm with.
But you still have to take it seriously.
Because it's more serious now than it was last year. This variant is even more contagious than the first COVID-19. Its harm to individuals is even worse than the first COVID. So the fact that, I understand, trust me, I don't want to lose another summer again. That last summer was just horrendous for anybody that had to go through it. And as I said, no disrespect to family members or CFNers who have lost family members or have had, ongoing effects because of COVID. I feel horrible for you. But to lose another summer, I'm not into that. No, but the thing is, we have to take it even more seriously now than last year because of the severity of the disease and this virus. So.
But even just on the topic, I'd like to just point out one of the benefits that I've noticed, and Jason, you can attest to this. You got out with your family more last year than you probably have in the past, right?
Oh yeah, big time.
So
yeah,
I've seen a lot more families getting out together than I ever have. So
yeah, last year in the U.S. there was 8 million new anglers last year in the U.S. 8 million in the U.S.
Exactly. Yeah. I didn't know the numbers, but I knew they were definitely jumped up. I heard the number was 30%.
I actually watched on CNBC. They interviewed the CEO for a wine sales are up 150%, and it's attributed to 8 million new anglers in the United States last year.
Yeah, it
that's
shows
a lot of anglers,
and it's trying to find tackle. Oh my goodness. I do tackle purchases before seasons and stuff, and oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Where I would go to one place, I've had to go to 2 or 3 to just to get what I wanted. But
it's true, man.
Yeah, and for me, it's pretty much all online.
Yeah, absolutely.
With curbside pickup and COVID and things, it's literally Natural Sports in Kitchener has what I want, or Gagnon's has what I want. Well, they're hours away from me, but I can get it here in 2 days. And there's local shops, and I'll call them and ask them what they got. But you know what?
Right when he gets the good stuff, man. But you're right.
I'm waiting.
I'm on the edge of my seat. Victoria, absolutely. Me and my kids started fishing during COVID and got to see a lot more of our own backyard. We got to see that during the Winter Fish Fest. It was anything I saw in the Winter Fish Fest, which was the common denominator, was the number of families that got out and enjoyed, catching some fish, some time out on the hard water. So
while we're waiting here, I'll briefly share my personal experience with COVID last year. I had the most stellar year personally because of COVID. I was off work for quite a while, and I was able to get out fishing way more, a lot more than I would normally be able to get out. So fishing wise, it was great. Financially, maybe not so much. But
good question.
The good with the bad. It was a nice vacation, I guess.
No, you're absolutely right. And for someone who likes to get geared up for the species as they become open, Dave Robinson is asking, what's your go-to spring walleye bait? Not live bait.
Is he asking me?
Yes.
Oh, spring go-to walleye bait. A 5/8 jig that I get from somebody who is local here. He makes them locally, and they're good quality. And I took that with a Jackal, I think a Jackal Rhythm Wave 3.8 is probably my go-to. The Golden Shad.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely like a paddle for myself.
That's the one I don't really use live bait in the spring. I have, maybe for the deeper ones. And the ones that I know are smaller, and I want to keep a limit and real limit. But no, the Jackal Rhythm Wave. That's my go-to. Yeah.
Jackal Rhythm Wave. Yeah, good
And
choice.
If I want to try and target bigger ones, the bigger ones, then I will troll a tail dancer. So the 20-foot tail dancer. I don't really target them any deeper than 30 feet, but I like to try and find them in 20 feet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somewhere around
well,
there.
Mark,
And they work well for the bigger ones.
Yeah, we've had, and Christina, you're 100% right.
Well,
Gas prices
kick
are
the
going
motor, he says.
Yeah, kick the motor. Gas prices are going up, and will make fishing this summer. You're going to have to plan your trips accordingly. Not just because of COVID, but things are getting expensive. There's no doubt about it. Right on, Mark. Well, listen, we've had a great show. We've learned a lot about you. We look forward to learning more about you as we see some of your segments and your videos that you'll be putting together on how you catch some of those grandiose fish. But thanks so much for joining me tonight, and all of us here at CFN, and for all of you who joined us tonight. I can't thank you enough for spending your holiday Monday, if it was a holiday, with us. I can't say Happy Easter enough to all who joined us, but I hope you all had a great weekend, and you have a great week. Again, Mark, thanks so much for doing this with us.
It was my pleasure. That was awesome. Thank you.
Right on. All right, guys, have yourself a great week. Thanks for joining us. And again, congratulations to Richard Dunlop. And you wanted to do a giveaway, Mark. Sorry.
Fish on?
Yeah, the fish on giveaway. Did you still want to do the giveaway? Oh, you're having modem problems as well. We can't hear what you're saying.
Okay. Am I back now?
Sort of. Yeah, you're still a little choppy.
Wow, this is really breaking up here.
Yeah. You know what? We'll end it. Yeah, we'll
Maybe
end
it's
it
everywhere,
tonight.
not just Jason.
It might be. Yeah, it might be a solar flare.
Well, we something here, but is it not clearing up? We can't do this?
You could try. It's not really clearing out, no. Kick your modem, Mark. I love it.
My goodness.
Well, Mark is frozen now too. So I will do a call of favor. And we will end this. Again, thanks, guys, so much for showing up. And we'll see you next Monday. One reminder that I do want to bring up that is coming up very, very soon, and I'm going to show you this. It is very important. Muskie Odyssey. It's going to be a great show. April 17th and 18th. It starts at 8:30 to 6 p.m. They're going to have a silent auction. They're going to have online bidding and some great presenters. And we're working very close in hand with Muskies Canada in putting this on. Very proud and honored to be a part of it. And we're hoping that you guys join and support this great effort to do a segment that is going to be socially distanced and still geared towards muskie and bringing people together. So we look forward to that, and we look forward to seeing you next Monday. Take care, guys. All the best. Peace.